Okay, so we are second part right now. Okay, split codebook. Okay, so I just double check that you can see or not. So last lecture we see binary tree search and full search, and then later on you can see what they're talking about most of the codebook. 喂 Julia 可以吗？喂 Julia 可以吗？ Okay. I assume you already received our streaming. Okay. So right now we start our second part. And what we talking about before, we are talking about the k-mean method. Most of them, because we know the training data, we already have a training data. Because based on the training data, we can design the relatively good covector codebook. So, however, how to design the codebook in the scalar quantization? What we talking about? If you know your training data, so you have to try to design your best scalar. Like a first one, previous what we talking about the scalar quantization. So scalar quantization. If you know your source data, so you have a source data for scalar quantization. If we know their probability density function for your source, so we can design according your probability density function. So we can design the best scalar. So we can design the best scalar quantizer. And for vector quantization, so what we see, because we have a training source data. This one we have a source data for training. All the data is like for training data. So based on the training data, and then we are trying to make sure each data is a vector. This data is a vector. And this data is one component. So according to this one source data, so we try to think about how to design your codebook. Based on we have to design your codebook. So we in last lecture we talking about the k-mean method. So it's based on you have an initial vector. This initial vector can be from the splitting tool, or maybe come from the random number generator, or maybe come from your original data to sample some original data become your initial covector. Using the k-mean, we can get some like a optimized codebook. So optimized codebook is not an optima. It's optimized. It mean we are trying under some constraint to get a relatively good codebook. So according to k-mean, we also talking about if you are trying to design the good codebook. So it is initially you can design a bigger size codebook, and later on during your training try to delete some covector because the cluster number of source data below that cluster is too small, so we can delete that covector. So we can iterate it to converge a better codebook. Okay, so in the scalar quantizer later on we are talking about some adaptive. So backward adaptive and forward adaptive. And so adaptive could be forward adaptive and backward adaptive. So for codebook vector quantization, because we try to make good use of your encoding bit, so we also consider how to make your codebook good, design code good. So another one we call the cascaded codebook. What's the cascaded codebook? Cascaded codebook is mean we have two hierarchical codebook. First one, we are input data become the vector, and then we are doing the vector matrix. So we are based on first codebook to do the vector matrix, and then we get a distortion, error vector. According to error vector, we are trying to using second codebook to do the covector matrix. So you can see first codebook we get the index, and second codebook we get the index here. So you can see here what we have. First codebook is more like we are coding the mean, and this one we are coding the deviation. You can treat like this one. So what's the main purpose here? Because this kind of design sometimes can reduce your codebook size. So what's the total index here? If we are trying to know why we're using the cascaded codebook, so you can see cascaded codebook. So here we have a first codebook, so codebook 1, and then we have a second codebook, codebook 2. So you can see if we are this codebook using the 8-bit, and then this one is 8-bit. So this one they are go through the channel. Once they go through the channel is index I. Index I is 8-bit. And then this one is index K. According to your textbook, index K is also 8-bit. So it indicates first codebook is 2506 covector. And this one codebook we have a 256 covector. So you only try to do the first search. You have only try to matching total number. Total number how many? You only vector matching. So you have vector matching. So you'll be 512 times. So if we are trying to combine them together, become one codebook. This one will be 16-bit. So how many you have? 2 power 16. So is I remember is 55 something. So is could be 65,000. Will be 65,000 covector. It's impossible to design it. Too many. So if you are trying to say, well, you are using first one codebook we have an 8-bit, and second one codebook we have an 8-bit. So total you are using 16-bit. So if we are trying to combine them together, you'll be 16-bit. So your 2 power 16 covector, is like a 65,000. I remember 65,000 something covector. So it's impossible to design. It's too complicated. So why are they using cascading? But if you have designed this kind of covector, performance, this one is better. Performance, this one is better. So this performance is better. But this one is more simple. So it's more simple. But however, performance a little bit degradation. Because this one, if you are trying to consider, this one could be take the mean, vector mean. We are quantize your vector mean. And this one, we are quantize your vector deviation. Quantize your vector deviation. So we are trying to, so this one combination just mean combination this one. So it's more regular. However, if you are trying to make 16-bit, the variation is higher. So variation higher, sometimes can make a good performance. So you'll be asking me why we do not using one code book, but this one is not easy to design because too many covector, and the other one your search complexity is higher. However, maybe your performance can be good, but that one is impossible. Most of them they are designed cascaded code book. So you can see this figure. You have a one code book, two code book. One code book is coding like a vector mean, like your mean, and the other is more like a variation. So first one we are do the vector matching, try to find the deviation error vector. So based on error vector, we are trying to do the second code book mapping. So during your dequantization, just using two code book, try to find your covector and together to get the output here. So in textbook, they try to calculate the size and sometimes the code book search. So we are not focused on that. So you can look into it. So they're also talking about the computation. So this one for you to find out. The other one is Gantt code book. So one is we are coding your GAN. The other one we are trying to see. So we are trying to find out what kind of GAN would be get the better the covector matching. So this one is more a little similar like our scalar quantization. We also like using like a unit. We call the unit quantizer. So this one before we call the unit quantizer, like a scalar quantizer. We talking about one is like a unity GAN quantizer. So here vector quantizer, we also can consider try to normalize your GAN. So is normalize your GAN input data, we estimate their GAN, and then we are trying to each input vector covector multiplied by their GAN and try to do the good mapping your input data. However, this one we have to send to the decoder. So this one we call the forward adaptive. It's not the only code book index. It's not the only code book index here. We also need to send our variance, more like a variance standard deviation multiplied by your covector try to mapping your input data. So this one sometimes we have to quantize. However, here they just show the original data. They will be take a couple bit to represent it. So this one is a forward adaptive. So they call the Gantt. So standard deviation rho here is your GAN, y is your shape. So this one is your GAN, rho is your GAN, y is your shape. So they call the Gantt vector quantizer. So another one, like a scalar quantizer, we are also talking about the adaptive quantizer. So differential or predicted coder. So you can see this one coder, we code what we have here. So you can see we have a vector buffer here. We try to do the prediction. Vector prediction. So we get an arrow vector. So from our code book, we try to find the best match. So we send the index. So the covector matrix, so you have a Y, also decoder here, so you get a YK here, and then try to summation your prediction become recover back your decoder can get the data covector. So according here, they will be try to see how to make a prediction. So you can see vector buffer here. We do the try to get the update code book here and try to do the vector mapping. So you can see this one, they do not have a like a maybe like a backward adapting. So they try to quantize prediction based on your predicted covector, based on your previous reconstructed data to do the prediction. Depend on your adaptive codebook. So this one you can see their equation here. Oh, they did not show. Okay. Depend on your adaptive codebook how to design it. So this one, I'll just try to redraw it. Okay. So you can see here, we have an input data. S of n is more like our source data. So we have a, they say they have a buffer here. Buffer here become the vector. So because this one could be S0, S1, component based, and later on we are become the vector, here. So we'll be partition many vector as m plus 1 like this one. So they'll be formed a vector. So they call this one is a big capital bold. So this one is a vector, this one is a component. And then supposed to be this one would be minus your prediction. And this one also buffer, supposed to be from here we get a vector. We try to do a vector matrix. And then we have an adaptive codebook. This one, adaptive codebook, adaptive codebook, they can be first in, last out. So you'll be more like a Pi9, age. So your input vector will be Pi9 here, and first in, last out. So you'll be Pi9 age here. So you will be first in, last out, the covector. So this one, you'll be more like this one. So your vector mapping will be from this codebook here, do the search. And then how to become adaptive codebook. The adaptive codebook is based on your reconstruction. So you can see you have a prediction, you have an arrow vector. This one is arrow vector. You do the vector matrix. So you have a codebook here. This one is a fixed codebook. It's not adaptive. So it's a fixed codebook here. So your arrow will be get a one index here. So you have also index k. So maybe you try to from here covector matrix. So you try to get what's the winner covector come out. So your prediction will be summation then together. So you'll be from here to here. So you can see your prediction covector will be according here. So you have a arrow vector. We try to using fixed covector to do the vector mapping. Try to find the winner is index k, and then this winner covector will be summation back their prediction become your decoder. This one is decoder can get the data covector put in your adaptive codebook. Adaptive codebook can be first in, last out, like a finite H. So finite H's. So it's more like a finite H's. So this one is a vector. So many word. So many word here. So it's more like a finite H here. So however, the vector mapping is from here whole vector, because depending on how many you have, whole vector to do the search. Try to find the best one. So the best one will be sent to the index. Best one will be get the index I. So this one will be do the best match, and then your match covector. So supposed to be is not from here. You are do the vector mapping after the winner. So the winner. So you'll be sent index I. So this one prediction is index I because the winner is adaptive. Why we call it adaptive? Could be this one is a 512 covector. So why we call they are adaptive? Because they'll be flush. Change the covector depend on your decode covector. Put in the first in, last out, finite H. So you'll be finite H, and then your covector will be tracked. Why? Your covector will be tracked your data characteristic. So your data right now become the bigger, become the smaller, and become the bigger and become the smaller. So this adaptive codebook will be track your dynamic range. So track your data dynamic range. At some time the data at sometimes dynamic range is larger, sometimes dynamic range is smaller. So this one adaptive codebook will be track some region your data variation, and then make them more adaptive your codebook. So however, this adaptive decoder, your decoder should be synchronized. Otherwise, you cannot decode the right data. So you can see your decoder have the same issue here. Your decoder have the same issue here. So you have a fix. This one is your error vector, and this one is your adaptive coder. So you get a prediction, and this one is your error vector. Summation together become decoding. Decoding vector will be put in your adaptive codebook. So this kind of adaptive vector quantization, we call this one is a backward adaptive. There's no additional bit to describe how to do adaptive. So the previous example, like a variance gain shape the vector quantization. This one is like a forward adaptive. This one is a forward adaptive because you have to inform your decoder how to do the gain according to the input vector. So you have an additional, not from the codebook, you have an additional based on your input vector. You have to inform, let the decoder know what's your gain here. So this one is a forward adaptive. So you can see like a scalar. We talking about a scalar quantization. So we have a adaptive mechanism. One is a forward adaptive, another is a backward adaptive. For vector quantization, we also can design some vector quantization mechanism. Is maybe adaptive codebook. So we call it adaptive codebook. So adaptive codebook. So we have to think about forward adaptive, also forward adaptive, and also the backward adaptive. The similar idea like a scalar quantization. So you have to know, just they treat the data different. One is treat the component individually. The other approach, we are treat a vector by vector. So inside the vector, minimum number of element is bigger than 2, bigger and equal to. So we call this one as a vector. So however, during the training, your best quantizer, scalar quantizer, is based on your probability density function. Vector quantization from your training data, we are based on the more like a k-mean iteration clustering. So however, they have some dedicated, some spatial dedicated method. So in combine with your k-mean, maybe we have a splitting tool, and then we have a how to generate good initial vector, and also we can over design them, and later on we try to shrink your covector become what you need, number of covector. So they have a many spatial design. However, because our big number is limit, so we can consider how to do the adaptive. What's the adaptive meaning? Adaptive is like we try to track your data, the local data characteristic. So we try to track our codebook design, try to optimize to your local data characteristic. So we have to design the adaptive, make a good use of your big. So maybe you can make a good use of your big assignment. So your big encoding big. So you have to know what we design here. Okay, so in your textbook they give the summary. So many quantization schemes have been designed and also deployed in practice. So a lot of practical applications, they already using different sophisticated quantizer. With advance in DSP technology, allow more processing power as well as storage, and vector quantization technique have become widespread. So vector quantization scheme sometimes is very effective in reducing your bit rate. So if you are trying to reduce your data volume, we have to perform some quantization, some kind of quantization. So however, if you have a quantization, supposed to be you should be loss. You should be some loss. So the codebook are trained to match the incoming signal. So the training process are usually applied offline. They also allow to run for a long time, so we can get the best codebook. In parallel with significant advanced DSP technology, some codebook can be optimized by develop intelligent search algorithms. So this one just for you understand. So I using the Mandarin regarding what we talk here. OK， 那之前我们讲过 scalar quantizer。scalar quantizer， 如果你有 source data， 那它是一个 component 一个 component 去看。那如何得到较佳的scalar 非像 scalar 的量化器？那我们会根据你的 source data， 这是你的 source data， 去看它的几率分布图，也就是几率的密度分布图。借由我要分割几个 quantization level， 假设我要分割这可能1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8、9，有8个好了，假设8个，然后我代表是用 copy 是2的3倍，也就是说我要把这些的积分面积是一样的，切割一样的面积。那在每个面积取重心点，就是它最佳的 quantizer。那同样的道理，我们在做 vector quantization， 你有 source data， 那我们基本上是用 k-mean。那 k-mean 呢是跟你的 initial vector 有关，你可以用 split tool 或是某种程度找到较好的 initial vector 做 training。你也可以说我刚开始 over design， 我虽然只要8个 covector， 我可能设计16个 covector， 刚开始。从 k-mean 慢慢 iteration， 慢慢把那个 cluster 有属于它较少的cluster， 那个代表的 cofactor delete 掉，有点像在 scalar quantization 我们找到最好，实际上就是大家的积分面积一样。那也就是说 vector quantization 如果你要分4个，最好你的分法是把你的 source data 是 equal partition， 也就是说我的 source data 分布密的地方，我要用较多的 cofactor， 分布稀疏的地方，我可能要用较少的 cofactor， 也就是说分布较稀疏的地方，较密的地方，我可能要用较多的 cofactor， 类似是这样。那在 scalar quantization 有 forward adaptive、backward adaptive， 实际上是为了追踪 data 现在的状况。当然就有讲到 unity gain quantizer。那你的 gain 的调整可以是用 decoder 来调，或是现在的 source。如果你根据 source data 来调 gain， 因为 decoder 不会有 source data， 这个就是 forward adaptive， 你就必须要调的 gain。如何调的 gain 告诉 decoder， 这个 gain 可以是量化的 gain。那将来你在做 prediction 必须以解量化的 gain 来除或来解。然后那 K-mean 呢也同样道理，可以用 cascading。cascading COBOL 第一级呢，你可能是量化它的类似 mean 的 vector， 第二级 deviation。那 cascading 可能跟这个不一样。cascading 呢，实际上我在切2级的 COBOL 的时候，你可以发觉 AB， 如果 total 用的16个 bit， 如果你只有1级的话，你的16 bit 的 covector 呢是很复杂的，有65000多笔。那你不可能设计这么大的 covector， 搜寻就很长时间。那正常来说，如果你能设计得出来，当然这个效果最好，因为这个是它的一个简化版，也就是把所有的 mean 或是 standard deviation 做了规则化，做了某种程度的规则化。它的组合虽然是2的8次方乘2的8次方，但是它是有规则的组合。那这种呢，是你有任意的 mean 任意的 gain， 每个 mean 当中可能的 gain 的变异 valuation 的变异都不一样，所以说它的组合变异会大，当然量化的效果会好，但是这种COBOL设计不好设计，因为太大了。那 forward adaptive、backward adaptive 基本上 adaptive 就是要 track 你的 data track 你 data 特性，善用你的 bit， 让你的 quantization 效果好。大概是这样。那这个只是说明说，课本那个 adaptive COBOL 实际上有点像是 first in last out， 像是一个 FIFO， 也就是你拍那进去，也就是说，假设你是深度 COBOL 1024，把所有解码之前的 COBOL 当成未来要量化的 cofactor， 那某种程度就是说我 source data 跟我的前面的 data 有某种程度的 correlation， 我就用我前面解码的 data 来做我后面要量化的资料，这是可以的。那为了 decoder 以同步，所以说你用的都是 decoder 端可以得到的资料来丢到你 update 你的 COBOL， 大概是这样。Okay, so I'm missing one point. I'll just remember you. If you have in scalar quantization, we try to get an optimized covector, optimize the scalar quantizer. We are trying to get an optimized quantization level design. For example, you know your probability density function. Try to partition a region. So each region, the integral, so their integral region area, the size should be equal. So according each region, the centroid point is your optimized quantizer. So this one is your optimized quantization level. So it's optimize your quantization level. Okay, so in your vector quantization, simple one is two component become one vector. So if we have a covector, ready for your vector quantization, what's the conversion for K-mean? So because right now you have a covector, so right now you could have a 5 covector in here, only one here. So you can see if you are covector more closely, more tightly, so they have a more covector here, and then only one covector here because they are more sparsely. This one more sparsely. So more sparsely, more small number. This one is a small number area. We just give them the one covector. This area have a large number of data around this region. We have to give them more covector, make the distortion lower, performance better. So you can see almost more like an equal partition, almost equal partition your space. Similar like a scalar quantizer, we try to equal partition the source data distribution. So vector quantization, a little bit, if you are trying to get a better covector, is more like an equal partition your space. From equal partition your space is based on your data density. More density data distribution gives them more covector. So large covector. If the loosely is not so dense, data distribution gives them small number of covector. So similar like a scalar quantization, what we use. Okay. So what we see here, the presentation file should be very simple here. Let me check it. So the previous one we talking about adaptive. So this one is a forward adaptive. So they based on input data to do the estimation. So they have to inform your decoder, so the estimate the deviation. So they also quantize that one and send the index. So here they have to have some index here to recover the variation. So the dequantize. So if you are send the data equal to your index, so indicate your index equal to your value, other like an ADC converter. Otherwise, you are not this one. You have to decoder. They have dequantizer according your deviation. So they have a backward adaptive. Backward adaptive based on decoder signal to adapt your codebook. So encoder should be include your decoder to do the synchronize with your decoder to do the codebook adaptive. So vector quantization. So you can see they are trying to partition your vector space. So the data distribution in the central have a high density. So if we are trying to assign the covector, like this one, small duck is our covector, so it will be more covector close to the central point here. Okay, so most of them we already talking about. In this presentation file, they are missing the k-mean. So next time I will be XTA to help me update it. Okay, so we finish this chapter. So we go to the speech processing. Really speech processing, what we talking about? First one, we are talking about the window. Why? So because we cannot wait the signal decoding. After decode, so we have a input speech. We have an input speech signal. So first issue, we are doing the speech encoding. We try to do the framing. try to do the frame. We call this one is framing. Try to cut one frame by one frame. Why? We cannot wait for they're talking about long time over 1 minute. You cannot wait the speech over 1 minute or over long time. We cannot over long time to do the encoding. So sometimes we are wait just maybe 20 millisecond or 30 millisecond. So we are start from the signal. So we are start from do the encoding. So we talk this one. You have to wait the data ready to do the encoding. So this one we call the buffer delay. So last time in the previous lecture, we already talked to you. We already talk to you regarding our speech end-to-end delay. End-to-end delay. We should be smaller than 100 milliseconds. Even sometimes we hope the 80 or 60, depend on different person. So minima it should be smaller than 100 milliseconds. Otherwise, the human being will be perceive your delay, the speech conversation have some delay. You have to wait. Well, that guy is responses a little bit slowly. It's not so smart because they didn't catch your point. They always take a longer time to respond to you and look like it's not like a real world communication. You'll be delay and get back to you and delay get back to him because you have a end-to-end delay will be take longer time. So our end-to-end delay, we have a buffer delay. Buffer delay sometimes we code this one. We have to wait the data one buffer ready, one speech frame. We call this one is speech frame. We have to wait for speech frame ready. Speech frame data ready. We are start to do the encoding. We go to the channel. After encoding, we go to the communication, and then after communication, we have to do the decoding. Maybe before decoding, you have to unpack your Ethernet, unpacking your packaging, Ethernet packaging. So that one is quick. Maybe that kind of buffer delay is very low because your payload should be perception delay. So because human being perception, we are not human being not perceive the signal have delay, not perceive the delay of signal. So this one is our main purpose here. So first issue, we are talking about short time because we are not considered long time. We are considered short frame signal processing. So it's more like a short time signal processing. So what's the window? Because this one we cover one frame by one frame. We call this one is a window. So window, we determine a portion of a speech signal that are to process by zeroing out the signal outside the region. So for example, like this signal, because we cut here to become the windowing. So what they say, if we are cut them together, the boundary data becomes 0. So you can see this one, what we have here, it could be, so if we are cut this one, become here, because the boundary here become the 0, this one become the 0, and the other part could be here, this part will become the 0. So we cut the windowing, just a rectangular window. rectangular window would be take this one. Only this region we have a value. The other region we do not have a value. We are zero out. So we are zeroing out the outside the window. So outside the region of interest. So this one is just we call the windowing. Okay, ideal window frequency response have very narrow main lobe and increase the resolution, no side lobe. So we are trying to have this kind of idea. So what's this meaning here? So I will be show you the textbook will be more clear. Okay, here the textbook they give you so many rectangular window here. Okay, so chapter 4, first issue we have to talking about the speech signal. So they talking about speech signal, they can be classified voice or unvoiced. So voice speech signal, they have a relative high energy content. So they should be have a high energy content here. So we have a high energy content, and unvoiced here could be like a noise. This region could be noise. So we call this one is unvoiced. So this region we are called a voice region. So voice speech signal, we are relatively high energy, and voice sometimes there are some periodical like this one. Periodical, this one is more like your pitch. So you can see some shape a little bit will be repeat again. This one is our pitch here. So we have sometime talking about later. So first issue we have to think about how to do the short time processing. We are not consider whole conversation speech utterance. So we are consider one part by one part. So we call this one is speech frame. So this speech frame is much smaller than image frame. Image frame is depend on your image size, S and Y, but the speech frame is one dimensional. They could be 10 milliseconds or 20 milliseconds or 30 milliseconds. If you are 8 kilohertz sampling rate, this one just 80 sample, and this one 160 and 240, and so on. So you can see they have a voice signal and unvoiced signal. So the amplitude they already scaling up. So this one just shows some example here. Okay, so windowing, we may be like this one is your original signal. Maybe we are convoluted by your windowing. So we have a windowing here, and then we can get your window signal. So right now we try to know what's your window operation. So this one, the window can be rectangular, battery, or hemming, or Bregman, or cassette. So this one, sometimes if you are in DSP, digital signal processing, this course, digital signal processing, they will be defined their signal processing this course. They will be defined all the filter characteristics. They will be described this kind of filter, what's the purpose here. So however, right now they have an idea. If we are trying to do the windowing, what's the idea the frequency response. So we try to make sure your windowing have a narrow main lobe, and also the side lobe should be smaller, so make your frequency leakage smaller. So this one we try to think about is possible to using this kind of windowing is good for your speech processing. Why? I will be talk to you later. So rectangular windowing, you can see only in this region. N is your windowing size. So this one is total number of n sample. So you have an n sample here. So if we are windowing, so rectangular window is more like this one. So this one is your n. The other side will be 0. So this one will be convolution by this one. So we can get a one window by one window. And Bartley and Hamming window, they have a little bit. I will show you the figure, so you can see like this one. Rectangular window, it will be more like this one. And Hamming and Henning, a little bit like a Gaussian distribution, but a different shape, a little bit similar. Another one, this one, maybe Bartley is similar like a triangle. So you can see we have a Hamming, Henning, Brackman, and Castle. So if we are consider all the windowing in the frequency domain, so we are using the Fourier transform to transfer all the signal, because we are trying to from the frequency domain to see what will be happen, because our input signal will be convoluted by this one. So you can see if we are convoluted by this filter, and then so you can see what will be happen. If we, like this one, A is a Hamming window. So the main envelope, is the envelope window, the size width is smaller, but the side lobe and main envelope, they will be very close, so the leakage is larger. So which one is good? Well, I make it more smaller. So you can see here, and so we have a 6 window. So you can see A is a rectangular window, and B is Bartley. So the main lobe and side lobe could be around minus 30, not reach 30 dB deviation. Hamming window is C, so main envelope and side envelope smaller, deviation bigger than 40. And Henning window, it will be deviation smaller than 40, but the main envelope is like a resolution could be a little bit similar like a Hamming window. Henning window, they can be deviation smaller, so minus 6 dB, but the main envelope, the width is bigger, and later on Brackman. So why we want to choose here? We have so many filters. If we are consider their frequency response, so we try to get this one is your main envelope. They call the main lobe. And then you have a second one and third lobe here. We try to make sure in this region smaller, and also we try to make sure this main envelope, this your second envelope, second lobe, we try to make this one, this delta 1, delta 2, we try to make deviation bigger. So if we are delta 1 smaller, it looks like our resolution is good. After this windowing, we can keep more detailed information. If delta 2 bigger, it's like a leakage smaller. So delta 1 small, like this region, delta 1 become the smaller, so resolution become the bigger. So from here you can see if we are trying to using Brackman and Castle, the resolution is not good. So the delta 1, delta 1 here is too bigger. So sometimes I make it clearly one more time. So this one is your main envelope, side envelope. So we define this one is delta 1. We define this one is delta 2. So this one is main envelope width. We try to main envelope width smaller, so make your signal resolution better. Delta 2 bigger, make your leakage smaller. So you can see leakage do the better job like Brackman and Castle, but the resolution is poor. But these two leakage in the middle, but the resolution better than Brackman and Castle. But this Hemming and Hemming will be better than Hemming window. And the other one, battery, the leakage is bigger. And the leakage is bigger is a rectangular window, but a rectangular window have good resolution. Why? So you can see some figure will be show you. This one, A is our original signal. So B is original signal. So this one is using a rectangular window, their frequency domain. This one using a Hemming window. So you can see their frequency domain. So you can see they keep all the envelope shape, but not detailed deviation. Sometimes detailed deviation could be the noise. So I just from different point of view to show you, because most of them later on we are talking about, most of them we are using the Hemming window, not a Hemming window. Most of them, because from that figure we are talking about the Hemming window. B is show the time plot rectangle, and B, C is using Hemming. Most of them we are talking about Hemming window. Right now they show you rectangular window. So if you have an original signal like this one, if you are using the Hemming window, so Hemming window will be smooth the boundary signal. So the boundary signal will become the smaller. And in the middle the signal will be keep the original, and then the boundary signal will become the smaller. So why? Because you can see, go back the time domain. This one their window frequency domain. From their time domain you can see a rectangular window. They try to keep original data inside that window. Hemming window, in the boundary, signal becomes smaller. In the middle, the signal becomes bigger. So right now you can see, if we are Hemming window will be kept window in the middle. So this one we are using a rectangular window, so you can keep original signal data. And Hemming window will be smooth the boundary. And later on, based on this data, we are do the Fourier transform. You'll be affected by the boundary effect. And this one, we are using the Fourier transform. Dominant signal will be in the middle. So we be model the signal by the in the middle your window signal. And boundary, they already smooth close to 0. So the boundary effect is not a direct effect, because you can see here boundary you have a big value, but suddenly they become 0. but our boundary is become the slowly change become the 0. So the boundary effect will be affect your signal lower, because you can see based on this kind of signal, you look at it, after the windowing, one is a window, rectangular window. This one is a Hamming window. So it goes through the frequency domain to see it. So Hamming window, there are not so many detailed information. However, rectangular window, they have many detail here. The detail is more information here, but sometimes the detailed information will be cause you trouble during your model. This one could be treated like noise, So I will be next lecture will be talking about more detail why we use Hamming window in the speech processing. Because speech processing, we try to model the signal characteristic. So we are prefer using a Hamming window. Okay, right now I'm using the Mandarin. A little bit repeat what I'm talking about. OK， 那个这一章主要一开始呢，我们讲到的就是语音的切音框。那为什么切音框？是人类的 perception 的问题。我不可能等这个人讲了一大串，我才才送到远端。那远端听到这个人的话就会有延迟，所以我是切成一段一段一段，每一段呢可能20 millisecond、30 millisecond。你说可不可以100 millisecond？ 不可以，100 millisecond 人一定听得到，因为 end to end 两端的 delay 包含你要处理，你要等多少资料才能开始做语音压缩的演算法运算，这种叫做 buffer delay。接下来你有 encoding 的计算时间，在通讯时间、解码时间，或许中间你有 bitstream 的 buffer 或怎么样，但这整个 end to end 呢，可能是原来的 buffer delay 大概2倍到2.5倍。所以说30 millisecond 2.5倍大概就是75，大概是75 millisecond。75 millisecond 需要呢小于100 millisecond。人在侦测这个 delay 呢不会觉得跟两边在交谈的时候发觉对方好像有点迟滞啊。那这个就是那我们在切音框的时候可以用矩形的切 rectangular 切，也可以用 Hamming、Buttery。那它的时域的关系。时域的关系就是刚才秀给你的秀给你们看的那个时域关系。那所以说有点像高斯其他除了有一个像三角形，其他有点像高斯，但是它都是把边缘的讯号缩小，中间的讯号保留。那 rectangular 是所有中间跟 boundary 都保留。如果你去看每个 window 从 frequency domain 去看它的 frequency 响应 rectangular 呢，它的主要的 main envelope 中间这一块它就相对的很细，每个 row 的那个 resolution 很细，代表说这个 main envelope 的宽度，它的宽度很细，代表它的resolution 好。那但是主 envelope 跟次 envelope 中间差的那个值很小，也就代表它容易漏信号。那或许这个不容易去了解。那如果从这个观点来看，从这么多的 window， 实际上Hamming window 算是不错的 ，leakage 不一定是最好，但是呢，它的讯号的 resolution 是被 keep 住，相对 Hamming window。所以说，如果从这张图，为什么语音处理大部分都用的是 Hamming window？ 如果你能找到更好，另当别论。所以从这张图来看，这个是我把一个语音切了一个 window， 那所以说呢，这个是类似220点切了一个 window，rectangular window。那如果我用 Hamming window， 它会把 boundary 的讯号缩为接近很小的值，接近0。那如果从这个讯号到频率 domain 来看，这个讯号到频率 domain 来看，那 rectangular 原来的，因为它的 resolution 高，所以说呢，它会把原来的讯号有一点点的细微，像这个地方的细微会被 model 回来，还是会有 model。然后呢，它太多的细微会出现。那但是呢，但是他在做这个 model 的时候，因为在它边界突然变成0，从 fully transform 它要从这个原始信号换成 fully transform 的 basis， 实际上某种程度在这个边缘会影响到它在建 model 的正确性所以说就会说的 leakage 的问题那如果你已经把边缘信号 渐进式的趋为零。它真正 FFT 建 model 的时候，主要根据主要讯号的变异性中间，它的 boundary effect 就变少 ，boundary 受到 boundary 切到 effect 就很少。那这时候呢，你的虽然 resolution 没有像 rectangular 那么好，但是呢，你的 leakage 会变少，也就是说，你的讯号受到边界的影响会少。那但是呢，你的讯号会 keep 建的 model 呢，会根据你的中间的主要信号来建模型。将来你要用它来产生你的参数的时候，会有这么好处。那为什么 rectangular 不用呢？因为它 keep 太多细节，那边界的效应影响你在建 model 的正确性，因为边界突然变零，那实际上对你在建 model 会受到边界的影响，因为你在建关系 encoding 实际上就在里面建 relationship 找一些关系，让你的资料可以缩小。那突然这个边界的关系不见了，那实际上会影响你建 model。干脆这个边界的东西尽量它在你影响你建 model 的成分越小越好。所以说我会渐进式的把它缩小，渐进式的缩小可以发觉它对影响我在建 model 的时候会变少。所以说为什么都会用 Hamming window。Okay, so in our speech processing, most of them we are using the Hamming window instead of a rectangular window because they are trying to minimize your boundary effect. Because later on we try to do the model quantization from then to calculate our parameter. Our parameter, quantization parameter, is based on our signal. But this signal in the boundary, they already are close to zero, so they do not affect your model parameter generation. So if you have a rectangular window, sometimes your boundary, because the boundary information, they do not have a right-hand side signal. This signal, they do not have a left-hand side signal. So their relationship is discontinuous. Sometimes they will be affecting your model parameter generation. So sometimes rectangular windows, they can catch the detailed information. However, they have leakage, will be affect your model parameter precisely. So Hamming window in speech processing, most of them we are using Hamming window here. Okay, so today I stop here. You have to remember we have a homework, so you try to do your best to pass through the paper. In case you are not well understand the paper, so you try to from their reference to go back to understand how they perform. Maybe they are from frequency domain, they from time domain. So next lecture, I will be briefly review what's the source localization. Make it easy understand our homework 1 first. Okay, we stop here. Talk to you next week. Our next week also online lecture because some local student because I using the speech English talk. Some student can rewind my lecture to catch the point more clearly. Some foreign student, maybe you are not catch my pronunciation, so you can pass on rewind again. Maybe you can catch the more detail. So maybe we can keep on online talk. In case you send me the email, so online talk maybe not good for you, so we can figure out next the other one. Because right now we still consider COVID-19 because you have to separate 1.5 meter in classroom. Otherwise, you have to wear the face mask. So maybe we try to do the safe way, try to using online talk. Later on, homework 1 talk, we try to set up the multiple person for the conference call. So that one, everyone can join the conference call to talk about your homework 1 together. Okay, so TA will be set up later on. Okay, talk to you next week. Okay, bye-bye.